Ton Station has just launched the tokenomics for its Soon token. The question that everyone is asking is USDT or dust? Is this airdrop going to be worth anything, or have I just completely wasted my time farming this over the last few months? Hey everyone, I'm Lathaz, and you'll know if you watch my last video on Ton Station that I was extremely bullish on this project. Has that continued post tokenomics? We'll go through that today. If you haven't already, I'd go back and watch the last video I did on Ton Station, as some of the concepts that I'll be talking through in this video, I go into a lot more depth in that one. While you're there, you might as well hit subscribe, right? And also turn on that bell icon too. That way you won't miss any of these updates as they come out. All right, tokenomics. Let's go. If you're wondering where to find this, I'll have a link in the description, but you can also go to the Ton Station Twitter or to their Telegram, and it's got all this information there as well. Now, the first thing that everyone's talking about is this total supply of 70 billion tokens. Most of the community, I would say, was thinking this was going to be a 10 billion total supply. So this is like a 7x on that, which does give alarm bells to some people. But one thing I'm not seeing people talking about is how the total supply doesn't really matter to some degree for the success of the token itself. For example, if we look at the top 100 coins by market cap and their total supply, you can see there's quite a big variation between each of these tokens. For example, you have Doge with 147 billion tokens. That's double how much Ton Station is going to have. You've got Tron with 100 billion. Obviously, we've got others that are on the complete other end of the spectrum, like Bitcoin with only 21 million. But the supply itself isn't determining how much the value of the project is. In terms of the market cap itself, it actually doesn't matter how big the supply is or how little it is. It just means that the price of the token itself is going to be different depending on if there's a higher supply or a lower supply. If you're buying into a token, it doesn't actually matter how big the total supply is, as long as you're getting a good percentage of the token supply. For you to do that on something like Doge, you're going to need to own 100,000 of these tokens. Whereas if you're getting something like Bitcoin, only having one of those tokens would give you just as much of a supply as, say, 100,000 or a million Doge coins would. Yeah, it makes you feel a bit richer because you own 100,000 Doge as opposed to one Bitcoin, but really it's one and the same. Now, where this does change is when you're getting an airdrop and it's 1-to-1 ratio of the tokens that you earned in the game. So I've made this little table to highlight this a little bit. You can see on the top here, this is the Soon token, and there's going to be a 70 billion total supply. Now, my allocation was about 700,000 tokens. So this means that my percentage of ownership of the total supply comes in at 0.001%, which if you compare this with something like Tomarket's Toma token, which they've just launched their tokenomics as well, they're going to have a 1 trillion supply, which again is fine in and of itself, but my allocation is only 500,000 tokens, which means that my allocation to supply percentage is 0.00005%, right? In terms of how much of the total supply I own, I'm actually getting 20x more of Soon tokens than I am of Toma. So this is where it matters, because if Toma was giving me 10 million Toma tokens, then nobody would really care, because although I'm getting lots of tokens and the token supply is high, my percentage would still have been the same. But because they haven't done that, it doesn't work out very well. So this is something you have to look at to see, is the 70 billion actually good or not? For another example of this, if we went with 1 billion total supply for Soon, like people were kind of hoping for, then my allocation would have needed to have been 10,000 tokens to have reached the same allocation to supply ratio. Anyway, all that to say, the total supply itself doesn't actually matter that much. It's more about how much are you being allocated yourself and how much of the total supply do you own in percentage terms. This also goes for the rest of it as well, because again, they're also giving out 42 billion tokens to the community, which that sounds like a lot, and it is a lot because 60% is a fairly high percentage that they're giving out to the community. So for all of this, I'm just going to go through the percentage tokens itself rather than the total number of tokens, because the percentage is really what matters here. 60% of the tokens to the community, I think, is a really good allocation. As an example, the Hype token that was absolutely buzzing the last few weeks and some people got some massive airdrops, they only gave 31% of their tokens to the community. Obviously, the set of circumstances are completely different, and the Hype token launched at a really high valuation. But 31% for the community as opposed to 60% is a big difference. Next line is pretty common. The liquidity and exchange partners, 22.5%. That's fairly normal. Those things are just what is needed for you to be able to list on different exchanges and have it in liquidity pools on decentralized exchanges, all that sort of stuff. 6% of the total supply will be going to the Superverse team and community, which I believe 1/3 of that, or 2%, is going to be going to the community in the form of an airdrop for the super stakers. So it sounds like the super team is getting 4% of the total allocation, I believe. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later in the video, but just know that the super team is known for holding their tokens. The Ton Station team is only getting 6% of the total supply, which that's pretty low, I think, compared to most projects. And then partners are getting 3.5%. I don't know exactly who the partners are. I believe that Mr. Beast was one of the people that would be listed as a partner. Because this is a fair launch project, I'm fairly certain that these partners have either bought in or they've provided a certain amount of value. And either way, the value that they've added will end up being more than what the cost of the tokens will be at launch. Basically, what I'm saying is these partners are going to be selling at a loss at launch if they decide to do that, which that's good news for us. And we'll get into that a little bit later. The last amount is 2% to the Sidus Heroes believers. Now, I'd bought some of the Sidus token and also the Sidus Heroes NFT to try and get some of that allocation. And I checked my app today and I only got 10,000 tokens for that. So not something that really was that lucrative, I don't think, in the end. If you want to see the tokenomics in a bit more detail here, here's a visual representation of that as well. The key thing to point out is that the FDV is going to be 7.5 million. If you watch my last video, you'll know exactly what this means, but a $7.5 million FDV is extremely low. But anyway, I'll show you that in a second in a bit more detail too. The last thing, and probably one of the most important things in my opinion, is that the soon listing is on December 22nd. If you haven't got an airdrop before, basically how this works is that you would get your soon tokens in your wallet before the listing time happens, which means that if you want to, you can sell your tokens straight away at launch. And if you look at some of the comments on this post, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be trying to do that. But if you're watching this video, you know something that they don't. And that is that this $7.5 million FDV is so low. So yes, the airdrop itself at the first might not be worth that much. But if this does do a 2x, a 5x, a 10x, a 100x, then your airdrop now is worth a lot. But most people aren't able to see that. All they see is that their airdrop is only going to be worth $10 and they freak out. Honestly, Wasting Frederick sums this up perfectly. I do hope he's watching because hopefully this will be helpful for him as well. But he's looking at this and thinking, I'm definitely going to be in the hole for this one. Probably spend a couple $100, an hour upon hours, and an estimated value of only $80. That would be pretty disappointing. But let's go through why I think that's not going to be the case. To do that, we need to look into some other tokens that are similar to Soon. What I mean by that is that this is a fair launch token. And there's been some fair launch tokens that have launched recently, and we want to check out how they've gone. And then we'll draw some comparisons to the Soon token to see if that could happen to the Soon token as well. By the way, these are all gaming tokens we're going to look at, but let's start with Xborg. Xborg launched at a $14 million valuation, which is actually almost double what Soon is going to be launching at, right? As you'll see on the chart, it does trade sideways for quite a while here, and it does get to as low as 12 million market cap. But from September 13th to October 20th, it did a 6x. That's 1 month. It went 6x. That's huge. Now, it has kind of traded sideways a bit, but it's still back up to all-time highs again now. Here's another one. This is Seed World. It launched on October 24th, and it launched at just under 0.3 cents. And then from October 24th to November 10th, it went up 4x. That's in 3 weeks. All right, let's check out another one. This is Super Champs. Now, this did a similar thing to Xborg. Kind of traded sideways for quite a while here, and then bang, it's gone on an upward trend that's gone up 7x. Since November 21st. Say that again, a 7x in 3 weeks. That's insane. 700% in 3 weeks. The most recent version of this is the Play token. This launched 4 days ago, and it launched somewhere in the range of like 8 million, right? It's now up to 29 million. That's a 3x in 4 days. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. Now, I've got a couple of thoughts on this. So firstly, the Play token has obviously gone mental. It's only been 4 days and it's just gone nuts. If we look at these examples, the amount of time it has taken for that token to launch and then pump has been getting shorter and shorter. With Xborg, it started at 3 months. Seed World, it was 3 weeks. And Super Champs is 3 weeks also. Play did this in 3 days. Now, I've got a few reasons why this might be the case. One could be that maybe Play got more publicity than these other games. I don't think that's true because Super Champs was getting quite a bit of publicity and there was also an airdrop there as well. So I don't think it was that one, but I guess we have to leave it as an option just in case. Second option could be is that maybe the fair launch meta people are starting to catch on to now. And so they're starting to realize that these things happen. And so then they're buying in quicker, which means that this accelerates the curve. That's definitely a possibility. The third option could be that maybe this flattening out here is where all the dumping is happening. And maybe it's actually going to end up going up way higher from here. And that this is just the flat point of the chart when we zoom out. It is only a market cap of 30 million, which is pretty small for something of this scale as well. So again, this could be something that ends up going 10x or 100x from here even. Probably think it's a mixture of the last two. I do think the fair launch meta people are starting to catch up on, which means that it's even more important that we understand how this works for the Soon token launch. In terms of how I've been investing in these, the Super Champs token, I didn't put any money into. I just kind of watched this one play out and I wanted to see how it happened in real time. And the Play token, I bought in a very small amount at launch itself, right down here somewhere. And then I wanted to go back and buy more, but then I kind of held off and I really should have bought in more, probably around this consolidation range here. But honestly, I was a little bit worried that it was still going to keep coming down from here, because if you looked at the other charts before, it showed that it kind of leveled out there for quite a while and then eventually had a big jump after a few weeks. Also was really bullish on the Soon token, and so I was trying to keep as much of my money on the sideline ready for that rather than having it locked up in play. So with all that said, what do I think is going to happen with the Soon token launch? In my opinion, it's going to go one of two ways. The first option is that I think it actually could go just like Play, where it could go really hard, really fast, massive upside, goes up 3x, 4x straight away. That's definitely possible. This chart that we're looking at here is the market cap, and so it launched at around an $8 million market cap, which at the moment their market cap is kind of like, half of what their FDV is. So probably around the $15 million range for their FDV. So again, Soon is launching at half of that. So there's every chance that this could run straight away. If that's the case, the chance of buying in down here is going to be really slim. You might need some sniping bots potentially, or something to try and get in there as early as possible. That's why the airdrop is actually really helpful, because you still got in at a pretty low valuation. The other thing that I think could happen is that maybe it could go kind of steady, maybe even down like 20 to 30%, like we saw with Super Champs, before then rocketing to the upside. That's a chance as well. I probably don't think this is going to happen, because again, I think there's so many different examples of this happening now where I think it's going to accelerate this curve. This is all obviously my opinion, so don't take this as gospel by any means, but go back and have a look at these other projects and make your own decisions on what you think could happen. So how am I positioning myself? I'm planning on trying to buy in a large portion of my allocation right at the start and try to get maybe like 50% to 60% of my tokens in there. And then if it does end up going down 20 or 30%, I'll probably try and put in the rest of my allocation to it. And if it doesn't, well, I got most of my stuff in when I wanted to. And then otherwise, I'll just put the rest of my money in at a slightly higher valuation. To make it clear what I think, the airdrop itself, I think actually might look like dust initially. I think people are going to be pretty upset to see that their value is only going to be about $10 or $20, but they put in maybe 30 or 40. And that would be pretty upsetting. But I think if you hold it just for a couple of days and see what happens, the worst it could do is go sideways and maybe down 20%. I don't think it's going to do some massive drop like we see in other airdrops, because it's launching at such a low valuation. Remember, what we're used to seeing with things like Hamster Combat or X Empire or whatever, they launch at a very high valuation, and then of course there's going to be a drop off, and then hopefully there's a pullback later. That's not happening with Soon, because it's launching so low. The only way it can go is pretty much up, in my opinion. So if you go back and watch my last video and you see everything that we talked about with the team and all the fundamentals that are there behind the Soon token, I just can't see how it can reasonably go much lower than 7.5 million. So at worst, you're putting money in and it's just going to sit stagnant for a while and then maybe go for an upside later. But even if it just stays stagnant, you could just pull the money out again. It's not that big a deal. I don't think there's going to be an opportunity for it to go down 50, 60, 70% like we see a lot of other airdrop tokens do. But again, that's just my opinion. Don't just listen blindly to a YouTuber and think that this is what you should do. Go and do your own research and see if this is something that you should put your money into, or even decide on what you want to do with your airdrop, whether you want to sell it straight away or if you want to hold it for a bit longer. Make those decisions based on your own research. The last thing I wanted to show you was this Superverse team allocation. And in case you were wondering about this and if it was a negative thing at all, don't worry, because the Superverse team is known for holding their tokens. Let me show you what I mean. So Elio Trades, the founder of Superverse, put out this token transparency update, which honestly, I love what he's done with this, and I hope some other projects start going down this route too. But if you haven't realized, ever since the Super token launched, they haven't sold anything. The team themselves have not sold any tokens. But these people in the team have worked extremely hard over the years, right? So they do deserve to get some of the money that they've earned. They deserve to get their flowers, right? So what he's proposing is this, is that 2% of the team's tokens will be unlocked straight away. That will be the base unlock. And then there'll be a performance-based unlock, which will be 0.1% of their tokens for every $1 billion in FDV this cycle. So if we go and look at the Superverse token itself, the FDV currently is 2 billion. So it has to get up to 3 billion before another 0.1% goes up. What's great about this is that it means that all of the holders are also seeing those gains as well, because now the super token that they're holding has gone from a $2 billion FDV up to a $3 billion FDV. And so they can choose to sell there if they want, or take some of their profits too. but now it means the team is going to take some of that as well, which I think is a good thing. He also made a commitment to signing a contract that his tokens will be managed by a third party according to a non-discretionary plan similar to those used by CEOs of publicly traded companies. Essentially what this means is that he's not going to be doing the selling himself, and means that it eliminates his ability to trade based on his knowledge of the project, and that all unlocks will be dynamically distributed across the remainder of the multi-year non-discretionary plan for minimal impact to the price. I just wanted to add that in at the end because I think if we've got somebody like this that's leading the project, they're also helping lead the Ton Station project, then I only imagine it's going to be a similar thing for that as well. So we're in a great position. If you haven't already and you want to join my Telegram mini app Airdrop Tracker that I've made on Notion, it's free to use. I've got a link in the description. There's also a video that I made recently that goes through exactly how to use this. I'd also recommend joining my Telegram channel. That's where I put all my raw, unfiltered thoughts and all of my direct alpha straight into that channel. We've also got a chat that you can join as well and talk with the different people in our community. And we're all really on the same page about wanting to make sure that we make it this cycle together. Finally, if you want to go and follow me on Twitter, that'd be really helpful as well. That's where I'm going to be posting some daily dose news on there as well. That'll take about 5 minutes to read each day, plus some of my other more formal thoughts on there. That's it. If you got to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it if you chuck a like on here as well. Share this to anybody who you think needs to know about this token and trying to get in and buy that as early as possible, in my opinion. I put this content out there because I truly think this is a really good opportunity, and I want to make sure that you have a chance to get in on it as well. I really do like growing in a community together. I don't want to just be getting a bag myself. I think it's really fun doing it together. Hopefully I'll see you on my Telegram channel where we can chat a little bit further. I also respond to all the comments on my YouTube videos as well. So leave a comment and we can have a chat down there too. Happy tapping. See ya.